It's 4:32 a.m. in Harlem. Cotton Club basement. Air thick with expensive tobacco. Wet wool. Gun oil. A single bulb swings like a pendulum. Bumpy Johnson sits in a chair, hands calm, suit clean, tie still straight, like he planned the night. 12 men ring him tight. Not kids, not amateurs. Hard faces, hard knuckles, hard eyes that don't blink, and one cop stands closest. NYPD shield flashed like a threat. The kind of badge that eats truth. The kind that collects, not protects. He presses a revolver to Bumpy's temple. Cold steel. Warm breath. A safety clicks off. That sound is a sermon down here. Half, the cop says. Half the numbers. Every week. Bumpy doesn't flinch. Doesn't beg. Doesn't bargain. He just looks at the bulb. Like he's counting its swings. The cop leans in. You hear me, Johnson? 50%. Or you don't walk. Somebody behind Bumpy chuckles. Nervous. Short. Dies fast in the room. Bumpy finally speaks. Voice low. Polite. Almost gentle. You want half, he says, of Harlem's hope. The cop smiles like a knife. Don't get poetic with me. Bumpy turns his eyes to the cop. Slow. Measured. Like moving a chess piece. Take your half, Bumpy says, and leave my people breathing. The cop nods to a thug. The thug steps forward with a paper sack. The sack smells like ink, like pennies, like desperation folded into cash. Bumpy reaches for the sack. The nearest gun rises. A barrel kisses his cheek. Easy, the cop snaps. Wrong move, you're done. Bumpy dips 2 fingers inside. He pinches something small, metal, cool, a single coin. He pulls it out, holds it up to the light. It flashes dull silver. 50 cents. The room goes quiet, quiet enough to hear breath tremble. Bumpy places the coin on the cop's shoe, right on the polished toe, like a tip, like an insult. Then Bumpy smiles. Just once, and the cop's grin falters. Because Bumpy's men aren't in the circle, not where you can count them. They're somewhere else, in the dark, in the walls, in the exits. And right then, the basement door locks. From the outside, now everybody's trapped down here, including the man with the badge. And the gun at Bumpy's head? It doesn't sound right. It sounds tired, like it's been handled too much. The cop squeezes the trigger anyway, hard, certain, and the hammer falls. But the gun doesn't fire. You don't understand Bumpy without the streets, without the hunger, without the math. In Harlem, numbers weren't just gambling. They were groceries, rent money, church shoes for Sunday, a little light in a cold week. A woman scrubbing floors for $7. She'd drop a dime on a dream. Pick 432. Pray it hits. Pray her boy eats meat tonight. Bumpy knew that. He wasn't blind to suffering. He was raised in it, and he learned early. Power lives where money flows, but money draws flies, and Harlem had plenty. Gangsters from downtown, bookmakers with smooth hands, politicians with hungry smiles. Then the cops, not all of them, but enough. The kind who didn't want arrests. They wanted percentages. The cop in the basement had a reason. Most men do. A reason they repeat at night. To sleep. His daughter was sick, they said, not a cold. Not a bruise, something slow and expensive, something that ate savings like fire. Hospitals wanted cash, landlords wanted rent, and the cop's salary? It wasn't mercy, it was a joke. So he turned his badge sideways, made it a key, opened doors that should have stayed locked. He wasn't the biggest threat though, he was a symptom, a leak in the walls. The real pressure came from above, from the white-hot machines downtown, from syndicates that moved like weather. Unstoppable, unarguable. Men who could buy judges, men who could buy silence, men who could make a body disappear, like it never had a name. In those years, Harlem was contested territory, a chessboard under streetlights, and Bumpy was one piece among many, a black king on a white board, every move watched, every mistake punished. So when a cop demanded 50%, it wasn't just greed, it was an invasion. If Bumpy paid that tribute, every shark would smell blood. Every small-time officer would try him next. Every crew would think he'd gone soft, and soft men don't last in Harlem. They get used, then buried. That's why the coin mattered. That's why the warning mattered. Because Bumpy wasn't fighting one cop, he was fighting the idea that Harlem belonged to anyone else. Bumpy's legend wasn't loud, not at first. It was quiet, like a blade slipping free. He didn't rely on luck. He didn't pray for accidents. He built outcomes, piece by piece. He had eyes everywhere, not spies in tuxedos, working people, invisible people. The shoeshine boy outside Small's Paradise, the elevator man in a midtown hotel, the janitor with keys to every back door, the parking attendant who heard everything. They didn't work for Bumpy from fear, not always. Sometimes it was respect, sometimes it was a bill paid, sometimes it was a protection. Bumpy listened more than he spoke. He'd lean back with a glass of Hennessy, cold against his palm, cognac bite on his tongue, and he'd let men talk themselves naked. Then he'd go home late, curtains drawn, lamp low, a book open like a confession. Shakespeare, philosophy, history, anything that taught human nature, because Bumpy understood one thing: every man has a price, and every man has a fear. The trick was knowing which came first. When the cops started circling, Bumpy didn't react fast, he reacted early. First, he mapped the cop's routine, which precinct he drank near, which corner he took his bribes on, which nights he got reckless. Second, he traced the cop's pressure points, the sick kid, the hospital bills, the lone shark whispering in his ear. Third, he built a room, not a room with velvet, a room with exits controlled, a room where panic had nowhere to run. He chose the Cotton Club basement because it felt familiar to outsiders. A place of music upstairs and shadows below. A place men underestimated because they thought they owned it. Bumpy also arranged the guest list. 12 to 1 looks like certainty, until you realize the 1 chose the 12. Each man in that circle had a weakness, a gambling debt, a mistress, a parole officer, a brother in trouble. Bumpy didn't need to threaten them. He only needed to remind them that he already knew. And there was one more move, the last move, the one nobody saw coming. Because the gun at Bumpy's head was never meant to kill him, not the way the cop thought. It was meant to expose the cop to his own men, to his own greed, to make the badge look small, to make it look cheap, to make it look like 50 cents. Harlem at night had two sounds, music and menace. Sometimes they were the same sound. Lennox Avenue breathed hot jazz, trumpets cutting through cigarette haze, laughter spilling out of doorways, perfume mixing with street steam. Small's Paradise glowed like a promise, couples swaying close, shoes tapping time. And, in the corners, men watching, always watching. The numbers runners moved like shadows, quick steps, paper slips tucked in sleeves, pencils behind ears, a nod here, a whisper there. A woman at a kitchen table would pick digits between prayers. A barber would take bets between hot towels and razor strokes. A preacher's wife might play quiet, because hope doesn't check your morals. That racket fed the neighborhood, not just the bosses. It fed the old lady downstairs, the kid who shined shoes, the bodega man who extended credit. But it also carried violence, a rhythm you learn to hear, the silence between heartbeats, the pause before someone screams. Harlem knew that rhythm well. A slammed car door at midnight could mean a lover, could mean a body. A stranger's shoes too clean could mean a new customer, could mean an assassin. Even the air had tells. Rain on hot pavement, cheap gin on breath, a whiff of cologne over fear. Bumpy walked through it all like he belonged to it, not like a tourist, not like a conqueror. He'd stop to talk to the old men playing checkers. He'd tip the kid selling papers. He'd remember names. That mattered. Because Harlem kept score. And the cops knew it too. That's why they wanted in. Not just for money, for control, for the right to squeeze. 50% wasn't a cut, it was a leash. If Bumpy accepted that leash, every runner would feel it. Every banker would tighten up. Every family would go hungry quicker. So Bumpy made a decision, not emotional, not impulsive, strategic. He would not fight loud. He would fight smart. And he would do it in a room where the cop felt powerful right up until he didn't. Remember that hammer falling, that dead click, that moment the gun betrayed him. In the basement, the cop freezes. His eyes flick to the cylinder. His thumb jerks the hammer back again. Click. Nothing. The men around him shift. They don't like uncertainty. They came for a sure thing. They came for a sure thing. They came for a humiliation, not a mystery. Bumpy doesn't move. He doesn't even blink. He lifts his glass from the floor. Hennessy, neat, cold rim, slow sip, like the basement is his office. The cop's voice cracks. What did you do? Bumpy's answer is soft. I prepared. The cop swings the gun sideways, points it at Bumpy's chest. Tries again. Click. Dead. Now the cop looks stupid, and in that circle, stupid is lethal. One thug laughs, just once. Then he stops, because Bumpy turns his head slightly. A warning without words. Bumpy finally stands, slowly, carefully, hands open. No sudden moves. He steps toward the cop, and the cop backs up. Just a half step. That's the first real victory. The shift in space. The shift in belief. Bumpy reaches into his pocket. The men tense. Barrels lift. Breeds tighten. He pulls out another coin. Not a bullet. Not a knife. A silver $50. Heavy, old. The kind with an eagle. He flips it in the air. It spins under the bulb, a tiny moon. Then he catches it. That's 50%, Bumpy says, of $1. The circle murmurs, confused, angry. Bumpy turns to the 12. Your man told you I'd fold. He told you I'd pay. He told you I was cornered. He looks at the cop again, but he didn't tell you the price. The cop spits. Don't listen to him. He's buying time. Bumpy nods, like agreeing. Time is valuable, he says. That's why I bought yours. Then the basement lights go out. Not one bulb. All of them. Total dark. The kind you can taste. Somebody curses. A chair scrapes. A gun clatters to concrete. And in the black, you hear it. The cleanest sound of the night. A shotgun being racked. Once, smooth, final. Then another sound. A second door bolt sliding. Metal on metal. Control being asserted. A match flares somewhere. Tiny sun. It lights Bumpy's face for a second. He's calm, almost bored. Behind the circle, silhouettes appear. Bumpy's men, quiet as velvet. Guns steady, angles perfect. The 12 realize it together. They weren't hunting, they were herded. Bumpy speaks into the dark. Gentlemen, he says, nobody has to die tonight. The cop tries to raise his revolver again. Bumpy's voice stops him cold. Your gun's empty, Bumpy says. 6 chambers, 6 blanks. The cop's mouth opens. No words come. Bumpy steps close enough for the cop to smell him. Clean soap. Cigar smoke. Cognac. Confidence. You like percentages, Bumpy whispers. Here's one. He places the 50-cent coin into the cop's palm, presses the cop's fingers closed around it. Like sealing a deal. Then Bumpy leans in. And here's the warning. He speaks so low only the cop hears. I know your daughter's name. I know your hospital. I know your doctor's bribes. I know who's lending you money. The cop's face drains, pale under the matchlight. Bumpy pulls back, raises his voice for everyone. This man wanted half of Harlem, he says, so I gave him half. Of what he deserved. He nods once. A small gesture. But it moves the room. One of Bumpy's men drops something on the table. A playing card. Ace of spades. The match goes out. And the cop understands. This isn't just intimidation. It's a signature. A story that will travel. Bumpy could have ended it there. Could have made the basement a grave. 12 men. 1 corrupt cop. No witnesses. But Bumpy had a code. Not clean. Not holy. But consistent. He believed fear was useful. But loyalty was priceless. He believed money bought time. But respect bought survival. So he chose mercy. The kind that hurts worse than bullets. He ordered the 12 disarmed. Quick. Professional. No extra violence. Then he walked the cop to the stairs. 1 step behind him. Close enough to control. The cop's badge looked dull now. Not shining. Just metal. Just another object. At the top of the stairs, Bumpy stopped him. He tapped the cop's pocket. Right where the shield sat. Keep it, Bumpy said. You'll need it to explain yourself. The cop swallowed hard. His pride was gone. All that remained was fear and relief. Bumpy handed him the coin again. That same 50 cents. Like a receipt. Take this, Bumpy said. So you remember the number. The cop tried to talk tough. Tried. It came out weak. You think you won, he muttered. Bumpy's eyes didn't blink. I didn't win, he said. I corrected you. Then the lesson landed. If you want money, Bumpy said, ask the men who print it. If you want respect, he continued, you earn it in daylight. The cop's jaw tightened. He hated the truth. But he couldn't fight it here. Bumpy leaned closer, voice quiet as velvet. "Next time you ask for 50%, he said, "I won't pay you in coins." He let that sentence hang, like smoke under a street lamp. Then he opened the door, let the cop walk out alive, because living men tell stories, and stories place other cops. That was Bumpy's real weapon, not the gun, not the basement. The message. Harlem wasn't for sale. Not at half off, not at any price. And every runner who heard it stood a little straighter the next day. Because they knew something. In Harlem, money could be taken, but respect had to be faced. So what do you call that, Justice? Extortion with manners? A neighborhood defending itself? Bumpy Johnson lived in contradictions. He fed people. He harmed people. He protected Harlem from outsiders, then taxed Harlem from within. And that 50-cent story, whether you treat it as fact or Harlem folklore, sharpened by time, it carries a question that won't die. If a corrupt cop threatened your life and your people's livelihood, what would you do? Would you pay the 50%? Would you fight and risk war? Would you choose mercy or make an example? Tell me where your line is and why. Because the next time, the pressure won't come from one cop, it'll come from the architects downtown. Lucky Luciano's shadow stretched long, and Harlem felt it. If you want the next chapter, the one where Bumpy faces the bigger machine behind the badge, stay with me and decide right now, was Bumpy a hero or a villain?